Hey, what's going on, everybody? We're here as a team to talk about Toronto International Film Festival, or short for TIFF 2023. I have three different amazing individuals. We all have different forms of coverage for TIFF, but we're going to kind of surround you some of the things that we stuck out for us, some things that we want you guys to look out for. It's coming out very soon. I'm going to go ahead and just introduce the group. What's going on, gents?
What's up, everybody?
I just noticed that Jorge shaved.
Wow.
Yes. You know, I just picked up on that.
Oh, man. I didn't say anything. When we came in, I was like,
Let's bring it back to about it's TIFF.
It's not a bad thing. Trust me. I was in Toronto looking like a werewolf for a week and a half. I was highly upset about that.
So yeah, you guys. So as you can see, just from the lineup here, there's a whole lot of films that were premiered and shown at TIFF. There's no way we saw all of this, but we will give some. Well, I take that back. I can't speak for Lucas. I don't know how many movies he saw. Lucas went for the entirety of the whole entire festival. Speaking of that, Lucas, so for you, I mean, last year you were only there for like 7 days, roughly.
Yeah, I did 7. I did Thursday to Tuesday or Wednesday, and Jorge did the whole festival last year.
Right. Yeah. So both of you guys have done the whole entire festival. Like, what was the one thing that you felt like the benefit of doing the whole entire time, or the drawback of doing it the whole time?
The benefit is after like a Tuesday or Wednesday, the festival slows down and you can get to see almost anything humanly possible there. It is amazing, but you also get more of a regular crowd that comes in for some of the screenings, and that also makes it fun. So it's less about the press screenings and more about the audience screenings that you can go to in a later half of it, and you get to meet some very interesting people. Also, it's a lot more industry people that go to the screenings after the big rush of films drop, because a lot of them are there for their film. So when their film drops, then a lot of them can go to multiple screenings. And I got to meet a lot of cool industry folks who were there to either rep their film or they produced on their film, directed some of the films. It was interesting.
Okay. What about you, Jorge? What was one of your takeaways from kind of doing it the long stretch?
Yeah, I think I agree with Lucas, because I think the first few days, it's almost like everyone's drinking from a fire hose. But then once you kind of get into that back half, it's almost like everyone that wanted to see like that premiere is already checked it off. So getting into some of the movies that you couldn't get into at the start of the week becomes so much easier. And I always found it that the morning like showings were a lot easier to get into than the afternoon ones. It sucked for like when we did it, because we were doing Midnight Madness and you would get out at, like 2 a.m. and by the time you get back to the hotel or wherever you're staying, Airbnb, to wake up early again to like go truck out, like, but I found that to be a really nice kind of rhythm. But yeah, I think the first half is fun if you want to get like all the hype and kind of like, all that fanfare. But the second half of it, it's a lot more peaceful and not as chaotic.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's interesting. So yeah, just for you guys for context, I went for about 5 days. Lucas went for the whole entirety, and Jorge did it remotely. So we're gonna kind of be picking off different stuff that we saw, positive and negative. But the experience in and of itself, we got to see some amazing films, and like Lucas said, we got to network with some amazing people. One of the things that I really appreciated was kind of being able to spend a little bit more time just communicating with the artists that kind of developed these films. And I mean, we didn't really get into the specifics of the strike. Depending on certain red carpets, they did come up in open conversation. But I think the majority of the people there were just happy to be able to embrace film, to embrace what they've created. And
Yeah.
it was a really interesting atmosphere to be able to be there. Jorge, I'm gonna pick on you.
Let's do it.
How was the experience from a remote capacity for those that are, at home and thinking about seeing some of these films? Like, is it kind of worth it? Or even for you, from a critic standpoint, how much coverage kind of was it for you?
So it's hard because compared to last year TIFF actually had a very nice virtual option where you had a good library of virtual, like to screen movies basically in like a virtual movie theater basically. This year, I'll be honest, it was a lot harder, and I felt there was a lot more hustling involved, I guess would be the nicest way to do it, because I had to reach out to tons of the firms that are representing the films, and all of them were more than happy to give me tickets to whatever screening I wanted to go see. And it's like, well, I'm covering it virtually. So as soon as you tell them that, it's either they ghost you, or a few of them actually came back and were more than happy to give me like a screener. So I think it's just kind of hit or miss. There were some movies that I really wanted to see that I didn't get a chance to see them. Point blank and simple. The nice thing is, like with New York Film Festival coming up here and Fantastic Fest, like I'll be able to catch some of those films that I missed. But I think that was the hard part. It wasn't a layup like you would expect. Like I felt I was doing more work, like shooting out cold emails in just hopes that I would get a reply back. The neat thing with that was I got to actually see movies that I would have never selected to see, and some of them actually ended up surprising me. So it kind of comes with your pros and cons on that one. Like it was a lot more work to get very little films, but the films that I got to see, like I'm happy that I branched out and just got to see them at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So would you say
You saw one of the best horror movie. You saw the best horror movie of a film festival remotely. I
by
saw it on location.
that
Huh?
movie was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
wait, which one y'all talking about?
Sleep.
Sleep.
Yeah, I know.
That hands down was the best horror movie of the festival, and it's one of here's the weird part. It was already released in Korea. It released in Korea the week of the festival. So they were more than willing to give screeners out for it, but hands down, when you got to see it, it was the best pure horror movie of the festival.
Yeah,
one of the best films of the festival in general, but definitely the best horror movie of the festival.
Yeah,
Man.
that one was a fun one for me. And I
Yes.
actually may get to interview the director of that one next week for Fantastic Fest, most likely. So I'm very excited for that. But no, yeah, that movie was a hit. But we can talk about that later on.
Yeah, I'm jealous because I didn't get to see it. I got actually a notification about it, and I was like, "Crap, I can't see it on set." That was the other thing. Some of the things that I got there the day after the first day. So because I got the day after the first day, I missed a lot of stuff that was on the first day, and then because I was on there for 5 days, some stuff came after I would already be gone. So my whole excursion was email for as much as we can actually get, to give notification, to get seating, to get press seating, because you would think it's kind of an open slam dunk, but it's kind of not. The truth of the matter is, like, we have P&I screenings, which is our press and industry, that are allotted to us, but those have certain subset times, and some of those times overlap, so you can't see the same exact time that you want to see something else. And so you would hope to see it the next day, but then some of those next days are like days after you're not there. So if you're not there for the entirety of it, you have to kind of figure out how to hustle that. And so there's public screenings. The public screenings that we have, they give you like 10 tickets that you can be able to use ahead of time to pick for what you want, but it's on a time basis. Now, one thing that I do say that I appreciated is they did have the day and day that came back this year. I think it was actually a little bit better this time around because there was a lot of things that just were never available to me, even when I emailed initially, that I was able to kind of go and get on that day. But I'd have to kind of work through the hustle. So if I was doing red carpets, if I was doing reviews, if I was out and about seeing the screening, I'd have to be doing that while I'm in the theater. So I'm like networking and trying to do it in the theater. And that is sometimes can be a little stressful. But I definitely did request for a lot of virtual films. And unfortunately, I didn't get to see any of them while I was there because I was just consistently going. Lucas can attest to that. I was always going. Like it was never a downtime. And like you said earlier, Jorge, like we do the Midnight Madness, you're not getting back until 2:30 at night. Yeah. And so you sitting there thinking, oh, I'm gonna record something. Like, nah, you're about to pass out.
Don't let them trick you, Jorge. Sam did one Midnight Madness this year.
Hey, one. I did too.
They're no joke. I mean, I will say, and you guys were there, so I can only talk about last year's experience. The Midnight Madness crowd is such a different crowd than your normal, even for your big movies. And I think that elevates some of these movies a lot more. Like I would have loved to be in a theater watching Sleep with a crowd. Because I think the crowd reaction would have intensified that movie even more. But no, I love the Midnight Madness. I think because I'll be going definitely next year. That'll be probably my highlight is just doing every single Midnight Madness film. Because I think those are, for me, like last year, all of them hit. Like there really weren't any crappy ones. I don't know about this year because I didn't get to see much of any of them. But for the most part, from what I've heard and, like kind of seeing some of the reviews that are out already, Midnight Madness was another hit again this year.
So, no segue. Lucas, what is your Killer Instinct overview of Midnight Madness this year? You saw every single Midnight Madness, I think, right? Except for one.
I saw 9 out of the 10 films, and I went to 7 out of the 10 screenings. So I saw Sleep early at a press screening, so I didn't go. And I saw When Evil Lurks early, and I didn't see Working Class Goes Bad. I think that's the only Midnight Madness film I did not watch. I mean, Midnight Madness is Midnight Madness. Even if the film's not that good, the crowd is entertaining enough to keep you intrigued.
Yep.
Because it was some not so good movies for Midnight Madness this year. But I think Midnight Madness is different because it's about experimental films along with horror films, along with fantasy films. It brings so many different elements of different genre bending films to that audience. And as Jorge said, that audience is completely different than any other audience humanly possible. Yeah. Like this year, I think the Midnight Madness Award went to Dix the Musical, which was the opening film in Midnight Madness. And to be in a crowd of people and watching that movie with everyone, and excuse my language here, as they pushed into the audience inflatable dicks that everybody was knocking around while the movie was playing was something that I never thought I would experience, but it elevated the movie even more so than what it possibly was, is because of the audience reaction you can get, down to a film like Argo Drift that confused the audience as they was watching it at Midnight Madness, and you saw the comedic reaction that people had to it, down to a film that I watched, which was the last film of the festival for me, which was, I want to say this right, Riddle of Fire, which is a movie that, as Jorge said a lot of times at TIFF, it's a movie I'd have never ever saw on my own. And I only picked it because it was a Midnight Madness film. And it turns out to be like one of the most enjoyable films I watched the entire time at TIFF. It is so different, so fun, but that's the point of Midnight Madness, is it brings different type of films to you for you to enjoy. And oh man, you're showing it now. That film there is, my God, I can't even describe how good that film is. It's like watching a kid's movie that is kind of made for kids, but it also has cussing in it. It has a dance sequence in it. It has every element humanly possible of a film in it that shouldn't make it a kid's movie, but yet it feels like a kid's movie still. It's fantastic, but that's what you get from Midnight Madness. You get that audience, so you don't mind getting out and getting back to wherever you're staying at 2:30 in the morning and waking up at 8, or as I woke Sam up every morning at 6:30, so I can go to another movie at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, those were fun. I definitely did see every morning. I at least saw a movie at 8:30, 8:45, or 9 o'clock, and then we just progressed through there. So yeah, so I guess this is a good little segue to kind of talk about different parts. We've already talked about Midnight Madness, talk about the virtual environment. I'm gonna try to talk a little
That
bit
shit
about
on movies. Yes. Oh, thought it was
the
time
what?
to talk about the bad movies.
What?
I thought it was time to talk about the bad movies. I was ready. Yes, let's talk about some of these movies.
Oh
Oh my God, let's talk about some of these bad movies.
Okay, I'll let you talk about the bad movies, then we'll shift to the red carpets, and then we'll talk about some of
Well, no,
our.
let's do the red carpets first because I don't participate in those. So you're a one-man team here on red carpets, buddy.
Oh God. So last year, it was me and Jorge. We were the dynamic duo going and trying to conquer the world of trying to go to every single red carpet we could possibly get our hands on while simultaneously doing screenings, which is crazy because I think we ended up with like 25 movies we did.
Yeah, and it
20,
was
20 something
I will.
each.
The only beef I had last year with the red carpet, which I get to redeem myself this year on Fantastic Fest, is due to one of the red carpets, which I will not name, which I'm still bitter about. I had to miss the People's Joker, and I think Lucas, you were the only person who saw that last year.
I
And
am one of
finally,
few people
I
that
get
get
to
to
see
see
that
that movie.
movie. But no, I did. And that's something I wanted to ask you, Sam, about it. With red carpets, were they a little bit more? I don't want to use the word lenient because maybe that's not the right word. But did they understand that we were also reviewing films, or did they still hold you hostage until like the very end? So you're sprinting to the theater.
So say hypothetically speaking, there's the premiere of the film is at 5:30. Say Sleep is the movie. We're just say it's at 5:30. Well, 2 hours ahead of time is when the carpet time starts. And then 30 minutes after that is when they lock the carpet. So they lock that carpet until that premiere done, regardless of what you do. Even if like you're cool with the people and like, hey, I'm just here to do photography, like depending on the location. Like if you're at the Princess Wales, like the Visa screening location, which is kind of outside. They're a little bit more like, oh, okay, if you're just doing photography, cool, you can kind of go there. But everywhere else, photography and on camera were required to stay locked in at that time, and then you have to shift over. Meaning that that's why we used to, had to split the reins.
Yeah.
That was what had to happen this time around. It was maddening. It was actually really rough. Because the truth of the matter is they were lenient in the sense of allowing certain how do I say this nicely? Certain red carpets were given to us and then certain ones were not. So there's still that depending on the placement when you're signing up for it. If the placement is at the same exact time for another one, they're going to figure out which one is going to have the higher versus the one that's the lower, and they're probably going to give you the one that's the lower because the higher one is going to have an excessive amount of people in it. So say if 30 different outlets are at the big one, if you're 20 on the list, you may get one question or may not get anything at all. So it's almost vital to make sure you have somebody that's there as a photographer to be able to at least get pictures if you can't get anything on camera, which thankfully Harris with Three Black Geeks was able to kind of come and help out with photography. And I think he also did some coverage interviews as well. So he was able to kind of help out with the photography aspect of it. But it still was not easy at the end of the day because we still had to be separated at all times. And then unfortunately, there was a period of time, like 48 hours, where we couldn't even sign up for any placement at all for whatever reconcilable differences. So that was like 48 hours of non-coverage. So it was like, what can you do within that amount of time? So then I kind of had to shift gears to go, I'm gonna go interview with this studio, I'm gonna interview with that studio, instead of going and actually being at the red carpet where it's a little bit easier. I had to go out to different locations. But thankfully the studios were really they're really cool about like, hey, I would love for you to interview with them. And I think some of them have still been asking after the fact. I haven't let anybody know at first. Fantastic Fest, and I know you're also doing New York Film Festival as well, Jorge. What we can kind of get from that, but it's just a part of the hustle, unfortunately. But it was hard. There were some that we did miss that hurt and breaks my heart. But that's part of the breaks. You're not going to be able to get everything, and it's just like going to a Comic-Con. Like there's some things you're just not going to be able to get.
No, it's nothing like a Comic-Con.
You know what I mean?
Let's be real. It is nothing like a Comic-Con. Comic-Con doesn't lock you into anything. They can care less. You can walk out in the middle of an interview room at Comic-Con and they're not going to care.
Yeah,
TIFF is different. TIFF is an actual film
some
festival.
stuff you're gonna get, there's some stuff you're not gonna get. You just have to accept that. That's what I mean.
Oh yeah. I mean, it sounds like y'all really had a hard time there. I don't do red carpet, so I don't experience any of that because I'm not interested in interviewing people at all. I'm just there to watch movies and go my merry little way. I mean, you can meet people to interview. Clearly, I met lots of people who even asked, like, well, I could put up an interview to talk about this. No, thank you. No, thank you at all. I'm not interested in talking to you about your project. I'm here to watch it, get my opinion, and move on. That's what I'm willing to do.
That is maddening to me. And don't let Lucas fool you. I've seen Lucas on the red carpet, and Lucas can definitely take on the reins if you wanted to. But,
no. But when you're doing films, you don't. I don't need to be jaded when I talk to people. And at times, unfortunately, when you do red carpets, you can like the person and it can sway your opinion on what they made. I don't want my opinion to be swayed in any way. So I can talk to you afterwards, but if your project's bad and I talk to you afterwards, guess what I'm going to bring up? Well, just a little mistakes here and there in your project. What do you think about the reaction to it? I know ask a question that leads to you had a bad project. Like I would love to talk to the people who made Finest Kind and like wonder like how did you come up with this horrible movie? Like because it seemed like it was really a work of art to make a movie this bad purposely. Or Pool Man, same thing.
So I didn't see Pool Man, but I do think that there's something to what Lucas is saying because all the different red carpets take place before the actual movies are released.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times, depending on if you're not seasoned, you're like in your head, like, what are we going to talk about? Like you got a sheet that says who the person is, no details. Most of the stuff from TIFF didn't have any trailers. They barely had like a description. So you're going to those red carpets cold. Like you don't know if the movie that you're watching, one is going to be something that's interesting you, or if it's going to be something that's good. So you're going into it completely cold beforehand. So I think that's actually a good thing because you're approaching it from a non-biased perspective, one way or another. Like it's like if the movie was bad, you didn't know. Like you just talked to them about what it was and then went from there. But yeah, that's one of the challenges and the interesting parts of the red carpet scene. So now we can go to the bad. We can go to the bad, then the okay, and then the good. Who wants to start this off?
I'll let Lucas start. He was very excited about the bad.
Clearly, because I ended up watching 33 movies at TIFF, and man, Pool Man was possibly the worst movie at this year's festival. Followed by Argo Drift and then Finest Kind, which Finest Kind was a movie I literally watched the last day I was there. And everything told me not to watch this movie. And I still watched this movie. And from a person who, in the Finest Kind, the director of it, I want to say it's Brian Hillelander. I may not be saying his name right, but I know for a fact he wrote LA Confidential, which is my favorite movie of all time. And to have Ben Foster, Tommy Lee Jones, Jenna Ortega. Like it has a cast that movie should have been good. And that movie is the most confusing bad movie I've ever seen. And not the worst movie I've seen, it's just confusingly bad. It's like a series of unfortunate events happens with the character over and over and over again in that film. But at least it wasn't Pool Man, which for some odd reason decided to mock Chinatown, steal the plot of Chinatown, and not make it a comedy, but in turn have a lot of comedic moments. But the actors all took the role seriously. It was so confusing that they didn't know what they do with that. And then there was Argyle Drift, that was like watching a movie on a broken LED screen, playing Grand Theft Auto on a broken LED screen. That was like sitting through Argyle Drift. None of it made any sense. None of it. I think it's an animation. I'm not even sure if it's animation, but I want to say it is animation in some form or fashion, but it is just super confusing, unnecessary. And if I was high, I think I would have liked it better. But it's the first film that anyone, and this is the good part of watching it with an audience of people and not necessarily with critics. While I was watching it, it was people who told me, "Oh man, I can tell you don't like it. You just got to vibe with the movie." I've literally never told, and I've never been told you just got to vibe out to a movie. Like, what does that even mean? I asked. I said, "What does that mean? What? Just listen to the music and just vibe out, man. It's not about anything else on the screen." I said, "Oh my god!" Like, but then with it being directed by Harmony, it makes sense that it would be a movie that says vibe is more important than any element of it. Makes no sense to even say that. But those are the three worst films. TIFF this year had a lot of major studio films that were not good. And a lot of the independent, smaller films that were being looked to be picked up were phenomenal. But the major studio films, a lot of them missed a lot. Netflix had a year of missing because they didn't do Finest Kind, but they did Reptile. Like they had a year of misses this year, which was weird for Netflix because they normally, especially for film festivals, they put their best foot forward. And they had two excellent films, but then other misses, including the Sylvester Stallone documentary, also was a miss.
I was going to ask, did you get to see that one? So you did see it?
Unfortunately, it was. I mean, you should never do a documentary on someone and have them be the executive producer of the documentary because you're not going to get an honest portrayal of anything because they're only willing to go so far as long as it doesn't embarrass them. And it always felt like while you're watching that doc is that if someone else was in control of this, you could have gotten a real story on Sly. And his career is something to really talk about. How many people talk about this? Sylvester Stallone has an Oscar for Best Picture. No one talks about that.
I don't know.
No one remembers Rocky won Best Picture.
Yeah.
How many people remember Rocky won Best Picture? It's a fact that is unknown. But then to take it from a writer who wasn't known, he writes that amazing film to becoming the quintessential action movie guy. To later in his career with Copland, he pivoted to a different direction. Also go through his family life. You're like, that story's amazing. And instead, you got a puff piece. And it kind of makes you just wish with him and Arnold that other people were in charge of their docs when they were done. What was the worst movie for you, Sam? Because you're not going to leave me out on the limb here, buddy.
Hold on. I was going to let Jorge go first. And I was gonna finish out because I'm getting my little list ready.
I mean, the few movies that I saw, I enjoyed all my movies. So I got no beef with the stuff I saw. There were a lot of movies that I didn't get to see that I'm really looking forward to seeing them whenever they do come out. But no, I really didn't see anything that was horrific or like halfway through I just had to shut it off. which is nice, which is cool.
Mhm.
And like two like out of my top three, two of the movies, like they were all subtitled movies, which I know how much you like that, Lucas, but I was reading the
Man,
whole dang on time.
Hey,
listen.
don't let Lucas
Ugh.
surprise you. We saw some subtitled movies this time around.
Oh
Yes, I
yeah.
was tricked. I was tricked into a couple of them. I was
Uh-oh. Okay.
No,
tricked
you
into a
knew
couple of them.
Sleep was a foreign film. There was some
Oh no,
other.
I knew Sleep was, and I had no issue seeing Sleep because Jorge gave it a glowing endorsement before I watched it. So I said, okay, let me check out Sleep.
Yeah.
When Evil Alerts, I did not know was a foreign film until I got into the movie, and I thoroughly regret watching that movie and
What was
having
that?
to read it the entire time.
What was that other midnight movie? It started with an N that you saw.
Oh,
Uh,
Nega.
yeah.
Nega, yeah, I skipped that. I didn't go to see it. I
I thought you
decided in
saw
the
it.
end, it wasn't worth reading. And not that the movie would be bad. And I don't want to put it out there like the movie's bad, but it got Nega was gonna be like my 31st movie, and I at that point was like, no. Here's what I skipped Nega and watched The Finest Kind instead. Clearly, I don't make good decisions. I should have seen Nega. I would have read Nega 1,000 times over before sitting through The Finest Kind again, where I couldn't escape the theater because I wanted to leave, but I was in the middle, and I knew if I left, it would interrupt so many people. And I just sat there in agony and pain and watched that movie all the way through.
That's
Like, here's, and I'll let this before Sam goes. At TIFF, you rarely get to see walkouts. It's a rare occurrence that you actually get to see them.
yeah.
During the screening of Pool Man, which was a press and industry screening, I saw over 30 walkouts. They were just like, nope, I am not sitting through this. It
Dang.
was that bad. And I said, oh wow. Me and another critic were talking, and he was like, I've never seen this many people walk out of screening before. And we were sitting there watching it, and I said, dude, I will walk out, but there's no need. My next movie doesn't start for, for about an hour and a half. I'm gonna sit here and watch this because I have nothing else to do. Like it was one of those horrible movies. But speaking of that, Sam, what was your experience at TIFF this year when it pertained to bad movies? I know one for sure you better mention. I don't care if he did make a movie you liked last year.
Hey, look now. Don't come from a man, all right? Leave him alone. So I'm gonna say this. I saw Finest Kind, and I actually really enjoyed Finest Kind. I actually thought that it was definitely it. There were certain parts in the middle section. I was like, I don't know what the heck this movie was trying to be.
Wait. Before you get to your bad movie, did you say
Yeah, I enjoyed the Finest Kind.
what elements of that movie
I
did
actually
you
really
like?
enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed the brother dynamic. Certain moments of it kind of reminded me of Four Brothers, which is really weird to say.
It
But
is
it was
extremely weird to
specifically
say.
the father relationships and the brother relationships. Both of the father relationships and the brother relationships were what kind of sold me for that. Like Jenna Ortega was cool to be in there, but she really didn't do much for the film.
She can't act.
And the
And it's,
other actors kind of surrounding Ben Foster and the younger brother were kind of really just there for placement. But I think the second half of the movie is where it actually got pretty interesting because by that time I kind of was like comfortable. Like the movie left me really feeling really comfortable about okay, this is how this is playing out. Like it's worst case scenario kind of thing happening.
I
But
can't wait
then
till Jorge
when
sees this movie.
yeah, I think it's gonna be hilarious. I should discuss it. But
'Cause
then when actual things start to kind of pile up, I was kind of like, they had said something about Tommy Lee Jones' character, and I was like, well, how in the world is this gonna play out? And so I was just very entertained by this film, and I think that even the way it ended, I actually really enjoyed it. Like I think that for me, I didn't go into the finance count with any kind of preconceived notions. But I did think in the very beginning, I was like, I don't know what this movie I don't know what this movie's trying to be. But I was very entertained by the movie. I actually really liked it, to be honest with you. But yeah, I could go into more detail, but go to my
no,
review.
there is no need to go into more details about that movie. I refuse to go into any more details about The Finest Kind.
But yeah,
Again, my thing
no,
was
no,
I betrayed everything I knew because it had a 15% rating on Rotten Tomato before I went to go see it. And I said, it can't be this bad. And I saw it and I was like, well, I'll be damned. It is this bad.
But you guys can check out both of our reviews. It should be by the end of the week.
Oh, no, you're not going to skip. What was the bad movie that you saw, sir?
There. Give me a second. Give me a second. God, dog. So there was a movie that, in hindsight, there's two different movies. One movie I kind of gave it a pass initially, and I think there are certain good elements about it, maybe more so performance driven. But by the end of the movie, the more I think about it, I don't know what the heck I kind of saw. Because it started going in a route that I didn't expect, and I'm talking about Fair Play. Because Fair Play, initially, I kind of left it at, I think I left it at like a C or a C minus. I kind of was like, oh, it's a pretty decent thriller. Like, it goes back to back to back. But then certain elements of that movie just did not make any sense. It kind of started doubling over itself. But I do think for a first time watch, I think it's a pretty thrilling thriller. It's a thriller drama, but some of the things that happen in the back half is just, I don't know, it just kind of threw me. But the movie that unfortunately disappointed me the most was one of my favorite directors, and I hate you, Lucas. Evil Doesn't Exist. And I'm going to break down that why it was if you go and check out my review. But the biggest thing I can kind of give you guys a silhouette what kind of my experience was. The first 10 to 15 minutes of the movie, there's absolutely nothing happening. It's just two people kind of walking through the woods. And if you go in and seen as many movies as we have, you go and the first thing you're kind of in there and just like, you're trying to fight like sleep deprivation. And so I was like, let me focus in and focus and see where this is going. And then it transitions to somewhere completely different. And then I started kind of getting invested with the little story because the backdrop of it is you got this man and his daughter, and you know, these developers are trying to expand out the town to add like some kind of project plan. And they could really kind of care less what this would actually do to the water reserves. And so the premise of it was pretty interesting. And then they started adding certain characters to it. And what the director does really good is about the conversations, whether it's driving, whether it's talking, whether it's eating. Those are always key points. But the actual story goes absolutely nowhere. And I, unfortunately, was very disappointed about where it went and how it ended. And it was only an hour and 46 minutes, which for comparison, Drive My Car, one of the reasons why it worked so well is there were time to kind of flesh out everything. I think it was like close to almost 3 hours. So this was a lot shorter. By the end of the movie, I was like, wait, what are we doing here? So unfortunately, this is one of the ones that kind of let me down, but it may not let you guys down. From an artistic standpoint, you may actually feel engaged by it, but for me, unfortunately, let me down. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that.
The reason I pushed him to say this, because I did not expect him to also say Fair Play, which even makes the point even funnier. I wanted you to talk about Evil Doesn't Exist. Evil Doesn't Exist is going to be nominated for Oscar for Best Foreign Picture and possibly Best Picture, as it's one of the top 5 best reviewed films coming out of TIFF.
It is.
So I found it absolutely hilarious when you were telling me how boring this movie was. Yeah. But then it compels it. Fair Play literally has played in 3 different film festivals. It is Netflix. I think now it's going to be possibly Netflix's big push for Best Picture at this point. Could it be, and you said it best, could it be that you were too tired to watch both of those movies? Or do you think that they were actually, because one thing I have found out is if you anyway sleep deprived, especially for anyone who I've heard talk about Evil Doesn't Exist, it's a slow burn. So slow burns and sleep deprivation do not work well together. And this is the flaw. It could be the flaw if not paced properly of these film festivals, is that you're going to see a lot of movies at one time. And you have to train yourself to be like, okay, let me actually attempt to pay attention to these movies. And when you told me about Evil Doesn't Exist, and everything I've heard about that movie is amazing. And I said, well, that's odd because I know how much Sam likes this director. Why would this be a bad movie?
Mhm.
And then I
Yeah,
see the reviews. I'm like,
I,
oh, wait.
I'll speak to. I definitely was tired, but unfortunately, that didn't lay any precedent over why. Even if I was completely awake and had sleep, I still would have issue with kind of how the surrounding arc ends. It kind of really just ends, and I think that sometimes movies like that work from an artistic standpoint. And I think that there's enough foundation as far as the characters that make that work. Matter of fact, I think that there's actually a really great performance with one of the main leads that he's such a conditioned character. I talked about that more in my review, but for me, I just could not get behind how it went and how it kind of set up for nothing. And sometimes movies can do that. It just was not my cup of tea. Now I will go back and check it again, but
No. Here's the thing, though. To me, if it's not for you, is look here. Neither one of us like Oppenheimer. You see the
hey, why
reviews
you
for
gotta
that one.
start something, Lucas?
So
Why?
that means
Sorry,
absolutely
everybody.
nothing. But it was just me asking because I know how much you like this director, and it caught me off guard when you said how much you didn't enjoy this movie.
Yeah, and the funny thing about Fair Play is that the first time I watched it, I was kind of like, oh, it's pretty decent. I think it's when I think back, would I watch it again, and did it make sense to me? Unfortunately, my head started to linger and think about it.
Oh no, Fair Play is not the type of movie I would ever expect you to even enjoy. I know what that movie is, and that is not a movie that I would think it'd be. After a while with us three, when you pinpoint the way we review things and our likes and dislikes of movies, I think we can tell when each other would see something and be like, yeah, that's not it. That's not going to be something. He's clearly, you said that about a film that I watched. I mean, I didn't hate the film, but clearly you knew going into it, I was going to have problems with the movie. But that's the way it is. Like, I can almost at this point tell what you would not like. I think I could tell definitely what Jorge would not like. And I think vice versa, where you could be like, yeah, this is not going to be a movie Lucas is going to like.
Yeah, it's funny because Lucas was prepping me for Dick's the musical, and
Which I absolutely love that movie. And Jorge would love that movie, but it's not a movie that Sam would like.
Yeah.
So I watched it, I reviewed it. I'm not gonna say what I left the rating for it. I think for me it was hard for me to get over two specific aspects of that movie that I just could not. I couldn't I reviewed it as a critic, but I couldn't conditionally disattach certain aspects of that film. It was at certain points offensive.
I can't wait till Jorge sees that movie. Because one, I think his reaction is going to be just like mine, and he's going to be like, "Oh, this is crazy, but boys, it's entertaining."
Yeah.
And he'll watch it and see the parts and be like, "Oh yeah, Sam, no, this would never work for him."
Yeah. Y'all should see how I navigated that review. Like I think that was one of the first reviews I recorded like a couple different times. Y'all know I don't do that. And I was like, how do I get my word?
My review is up for Dicks. I think I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. So that tells you just how much I love that movie. But it's elements of that movie that if you are a Christian, you're not gonna like. Oh, you're not gonna like it at all. Oh, but they're so funny. It's an amazingly funny film. But that's what you get out of TIFF, I think, more than anything else. You get the big studio films, but you also get these films that are smaller that get picked up from this festival. I'm just from last year, like when we all went to go see The Blackening. It took another year for that film to come out.
Yeah.
But at a place like TIFF, you're gonna get the opportunity to see the big studio films. Then you're gonna get to see these smaller independent films or foreign films that really blow you away. And you're waiting for people to pick them up. My favorite film from last year at TIFF, I don't think still has American distribution.
Oh, which film?
And it was my favorite, Brother.
Oh, yeah, nope.
Yeah, no, it hasn't yet.
And not only that, Brother was my favorite film of the year last year. And it's still, I cannot find it here in America. In Canada, where we're at, because it was a Canadian film, it's got a release there and everything already.
Oh.
People love the film, but here it is extremely difficult to find it.
Yeah.
So that should tell you just how TIFF works. Again, when you're going to the largest film festival in North America, you're gonna see a lot of these independent films. It's another film that I did not see yet that I want to see, that Jorge got to see, and that was Toll.
Yep.
That I really, really want to see. Like, and the synopsis was so interesting to me, and I said, man, I gotta check this movie out. And it's one of those movies I know is going to be hard to get here in the US, even if it gets picked up for distribution.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So now comes the time we talk about the films that we really enjoyed. Who wants to go first?
I'll jump in first because I saw the least amount of films, so it'll be quick and easy, guys.
All right,
You and Sam saw the same amount of films, Jorge.
I think for me, I'll sum it up as like my top 3 films that I saw, and they all are very different. And funny enough, like I was just looking at my list now, they're all foreign films. So maybe this is telling me something, because I know last year got me into foreign films a lot more, because I ended up seeing Holy Spider, and kind of fell in love with just seeing very weird and different films. So for me, number 3 of this year was Toll. It's a Brazilian film, hilarious, not hilarious, but just has funny moments. But yeah, that one was my number 3. Number 2, and I don't know if any of you guys saw this one, was Woodland. Did any of you guys see that or no?
I have it to watch. I have not seen it yet.
It was on my list, and I did not get a chance to check it out yet.
So that one, I haven't seen a movie about trauma and the after effects, and just seeing the way that this character like had her walls up, and you slowly see her like not letting her guard down, and then slowly start chipping away and removing herself kind of like from society. So the basis of that film is this lady survives a terrorist attack, but survives it like unscathed, nothing happened. But obviously it's just like the PTSD of it makes her leave like her city life, which is, you know, nice and beautiful, back to like where she grew up, which is like in the woods basically. And that one was, there was so much tension throughout this film, and you just fall in love with these characters, and just seeing that progression of grief and all the craziest thing that starts happening, and how when she goes back to her hometown, like they hate her there and everyone hates her. It was shot so well. So that one was my number 2, and my number 1, you know, was Sleep. Like no doubt about it. I don't really love horror films that much because I like sleeping. But Sleep was just, it was so well done. And just when I thought like I understood what was happening, or like what kind of like the turn was going to be, I was wrong, like way wrong. And it keeps unfolding. But yeah, this movie was phenomenal. If you are into like, I guess the best way I can describe it's like horror mystery, like because you literally are trying to figure out what's happening, and the whole film is basically shot in like an apartment for the most part. Like there's very few scenes that are like outside of this apartment, but what they're able to create in that space is nothing short of phenomenal. So yeah, so I would say those are my 3 that I saw that are complete foreign films, and would highly recommend, and would tell people to go watch them anytime. Like they all bring very special different elements to, you know, like what you're getting. But yeah, Sleep was definitely my hit of this year's TIFF.
Cool beans. Lucas, what about you, sir?
Wow. This is an extremely hard list to put down to 3 films, but
you can do top 10, man. You saw enough to do top 10.
No. Well, I'll do the 3 that impacted me the most in this festival. Possibly number 3 would be Rustin. It is a great film that is more important than anything else. Like along with having Coma Domingo do possibly one of the best performances of this year in this film, it is such an important story of someone that especially black people, black kids, black people in their 30s and 40s, we don't know a lot about Mr. Rustin. And just to know that the way he put together one of the most significant events in civil rights history is amazing. And to have this story told from a black homosexual, openly gay homosexual man in the 60s. And you see this story, you see everything he goes through. This story is phenomenal on so many levels. And then the next one would be another film that with Coleman Domingo, which is Sing Sing, which is another film that again, it's real life traumas involved, prisoners in the RTA program and how they use putting on plays for their fellow inmates as an escape from their reality and what that means to every single one of them. That movie is so freaking powerful and so good. And then the last film is the film that broke me completely as I was watching it. And then not only broke me, it broke at least 5 to 6 other people who were in the theater with me. And that is We Grow Now. It is a film that I knew nothing about 6 days into the festival. And then I just happened to see it and I said, let me check this out and see what this is about. It's about two kids growing up in the Cabrini Green projects in 1992 in Chicago. The same projects that made Candyman. So I was immediately terrified about what was going to happen in this movie. But when you get to the crux of the story, it's so innocent. And it brought back so much of my childhood about what kids see and how kids perceive certain situations that they're in. Like it's obvious these kids are in the projects, but to them, everything is an adventure. And it brought to me, even this picture right here you see now, where the kids are around him and he's jumping, is because they play a game called Jump. And it's just them jumping on dirty mattresses. But to them, it's the best thing ever done humanly possible. And they can soar through the sky. But then the director pans out and shows that they may only be a foot off the ground when they jump. But they play the film as you're looking through it of the eyes of these two black kids and everything they go through. I cried 4 times during the movie. By the end of the movie, I literally got my stuff and had to walk out because it was a woman behind me who was losing it. And then as I'm walking out, it was 3 other critics. This was a critic screening. 3 other critics were all just bawling. And I said, nope, I can't be around this situation right now. I am a professional and I am not going to be breaking down in front of everybody else here. But it is an extremely powerful movie. I don't think that movie has distribution yet either. But that was my top 3. Granted, it'll probably change because I saw a lot of really, really great movies, but I know those are the 3 that impacted me the most.
Man, see, this is gonna be hard. Y'all threw out some haymakers. Um, so yeah, one of my favorites is Sing Sing. Sing Sing. I didn't know about the story, but the other thing that hit me so hard about Sing Sing is we did the red carpet for it first initially, and I got the understanding at the red carpet that these are the people that were actually living these lives, playing these characters, and that changed my whole perception of this because I was like, this is so specific. And then when I watched the movie and I got to watch it, with them as well, like I was like, man, that movie broke me down. It was so powerful. One of the things that Coleman Domingo has said is that one of the things he wants the audience to get, and I didn't get this until I saw the movie, is he wanted to have joy and empowerment to come from it. And like, I mean, of course, this man is an amazing, powerful actor, but I mean, his trick of the trade is something that of healing for these men. And so he literally is embodying it through his performance. One of the best performances this year, but also one of the most essential, hopeful movies that I've seen in TIFF as a whole. It was one of my favorites for sure. I've seen some really good films. I've seen some very entertaining ones. I want to give a shout out to Boy Kill World. I thought that was so entertainingly violent. It was ridiculous. The fact that what's my man? Is it? It's not Bill,
Bill
is it?
Skarsgård.
Is it
Bill
Bill? Yeah,
Skarsgård.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bill Skarsgård was in this joint, and I was like, "Oh, look at my man Bill sitting there doing some action." Man got in shape for that joint. That's not my top three, but it's one of my most entertaining ones because the commitment behind how that story progresses is something I think that it would hit with audiences. I think they'd be very highly entertained by that. So I'm just gonna give that small, like a little nudge. But my number two, man, that's so hard because I want to say Rustin, but I'm gonna give this one my number two for now. And it's so weird to say because Hitman is not. How do I put it? Hitman hits me different because I love the science behind what this man Gary is doing. So Gary is a guy that is kind of working with the police to be able to kind of entrap people to basically send him out to be a hitman. Like he's not an actual hitman, but he's kind of equipped himself to like use acting to kind of trick people into being hitman. And I think the thing that worked with me with this film was the fact of like he starts to switch his mind subconsciously. And I love that fact of how well Glenn kind of plays the character. It's just such a fun and insane ride. Like I really had so much fun with it. And it's actually a really strong performance from Glenn because like it's not like this is a dramatic thing that's kind of happening. Like it's actually very funny throughout the film. But I loved how he played it. I love how it went down. And also it's kind of based on the true story, but it's really dramatified. But it was actually one of my favorites. So it's not necessarily a serious one. So I have a lot of films I love in this, but I think the one that I can't believe I'm about to say this, Origin, is probably one of my favorites, because I think, in spite of where I feel about the author, they kind of basically takes a sculpt of cast and kind of takes it from Ava DuVernay's perspective, using the author's trauma that she went through during coming and recollecting actually the book cast and putting this to film on top of everything layered of what the person's going through and also kind of describing it. I don't necessarily agree with the actual system from what the author brought, but there's so many different impactful emotional moments and moments that kind of helped me out to deal with some of my own grief that I've actually gone through in the past 3 years. And I just, it was one that hit me the hardest out of every movie that I've seen at TIFF. Like this one, I couldn't keep off my list. So it actually ended up in my number one. I can't believe that. So this may be subject to change, just letting you guys know, but it was one of my favorite films this year. Yeah.
Hold up. I gotta say one again. I told you I was gonna be a film I forgot about. Granted, it's not in. It's as close to my top three that so much so it could be number 4, but it could be number 1 on another given day. The Holdovers by Alexander Payne is clearly one of the best films of the year. It's gonna be one of the front runners for Best Picture. Divine Joy Robinson is for me personally, is a lock for Best Supporting Actress. There will be nobody who's going to match her performance in this film. And Paul Giamatti for Best Actor, to me, the nomination's a lock, and it's going to be hard for a lot of people. Oh my God. It's going to be hard for a lot of people to beat him also. Like, it's one of those things that this movie is phenomenal. And speaking of this movie, it literally reminded me of the film that I told Sam is my favorite film of the festival that I did not mention. And that is American Fiction is the best film I saw at TIFF, hands down. That's why I picked the films that impacted me the most. American Fiction is not a film that had the emotional weight of the other films, but it's the best film I've seen this year. It has the best performance that I've seen this year in it. It ended up winning TIFF's Audience Award as, for them, the best film at TIFF. This film it's the best written thing I've seen in at least 10 years. Like, Cord Jefferson is also, I think he was also a writer on Succession. The way he writes this film and directs it is fucking phenomenal. But Jeffrey Wright gives a career-defining performance in this film. Sterling K. Brown gives a career-defining performance in this film. Erica Alexander gives a career-defining performance in this film. That should tell you how powerful this is. That I'm saying that about 3 actors who've been doing this for at least 30 years, and they possibly do their best work in this film, along with having a cast that also includes Issa Rae, Leslie Uggams. Like, the cast here is phenomenal. This is a quintessential grown Black film. And I know there's a lot of people who you may not understand the terminology of that, but we've seen Black films of coming of age Black stories. They're known to us. You can go The Best Man, The Wood, The Brothers, any of things of that nature, but we just didn't have it in this setting with this old of an audience, and that's what makes this perfect. Even Tracy Ellis Ross is in this movie. Like, it's loaded with a cast, but Jeffrey Wright, Sterling K. Brown, their performances here are phenomenal. At this, like, I think this could be the first year for the Academy where Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress can all go to Black actors, and it would not be a surprise. And I think if it wasn't for Kate Winslet and Lee, while the movie is not as strong as a lot of people would like, her performance is phenomenal. Ingenue, who's in Origins, could also sneak into that category for Best Actress for her role there. Like, this is going to be a very tough year. And these are performances that are just amazing. Man, American Fiction, again, my favorite film in the festival. The Holdovers is a film that, if you know Alexander Payne's work, The Descendants, Sideways, all those other things, this was his most enjoyable film to me. That film was great on so many levels, but American Fiction was the best film I saw at the festival. And it's directed and written by a Black man. So, man, if he comes up and wins Best Director and Best Screenplay, dude.
So I did not get to see The Holdovers because both times I tried to go, ironically, the freaking theater was filled up. Even the P&I screen was filled up. And then I think American Fiction, it just was an issue with the red carpet.
And I kept on telling you, you need to see. Luckily, American Fiction is a studio film. So I think it's Warner Brothers. I want to say it's Warner Brothers. Like, that's a studio film. And it's going to, after TIFF and after the reaction it's gotten, I think it's going to play through the rest of the award season. Because this is, you rarely get that Black older actor that everybody acknowledges how great he is, and he doesn't have an award yet. And this could, Coleman Domingo is the only thing standing in front of Jeffrey Wright winning Best Actor.
And the crazy thing is, Jeffrey Wright was in Rustin, giving Coleman Domingo the business.
Yeah, he's in Rustin playing, yes, Adam Powell. And like, that's what's going to make this so interesting, because he is so bad in Rustin, and I mean not bad with his performances. I mean his character, and this is a real life person that he's playing.
Yeah, he was malicious.
If Jeffrey Wright and Coleman Domingo can both walk away with Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor nominations this year.
Wow.
Because Coleman is a supporting actor in Sing Sing. Because that's an ensemble piece. And he could get nominated for Rustin. He's going to get nominated for Rustin. He could get nominated for Sing Sing. Jeffrey Wright is going to get nominated for American Fiction. And he could get nominated for Rustin also. That would be insane. To have 2 Black actors nominated for both acting awards, supporting and Best Actor in the same year. And again, Divine Joy, like, I can't speak enough how absolutely funny and it is. Her performance in The Holdovers is so powerful because it comes from an angle that I've never seen in an Alexander Payne film before, where she's playing a mother in grief for losing her son, also having to take care of kids, and she put it's so it's I haven't felt this way about an actress in a performance, either be best or supporting, in years, where I felt like she steals every time she's on screen.
Yeah, I do want to
And that's
give.
hard to say with Paul Giamatti in a film. It's hard to steal anything with him in a movie, and him being grade A in a movie also.
Yeah, I wanted to give like a small little shout out to Clarence McLean. That he's actually the person that's Divine Eye. I
Yes.
thought that his performance in Sing Sing, like I mean, as good as Coma Domingo was, a lot of the scenes rested on both of them. Like they were ripping
Yes.
back, and I was like, where did this man come from? Because he is chopping up scenes. Like he's coming off so natural, not just charismatic at times, like he's scary, and then other times he's emotionally vulnerable, but still maintaining like the same facial expression, but you can feel it. And I was like, dude, like for him, for me to have never seen anything he's ever done and to witness that, like it was a very strong and powerful performance. Like that, a lot of that was resting off of his shoulders. So I want to give him a lot of credit for that. But I was
Oh,
gonna add,
and
good.
hold on, one more thing too. And the lead actress of Sleep, my God, she is phenomenal. I'm never gonna say her name right, so I will not
Nope.
say it and attempt to say it because I'm not gonna say her name right.
But yeah, she
Uh,
was out of this
she is,
world.
oh my God, to play a mother who is desperate in keeping her family together, then flip it to her being desperate to make sure that her child is safe, and then to flip it again for her to be desperate to make sure her husband is saved. That performance was unbelievable. As you're watching it and you're watching her despair over her face, it is some close-up shots that the director goes, Jason Yu.
Yeah,
I'm saying
Jason
his
Yu.
name right.
Yep.
Jason Yu goes with on her, just on her, that is phenomenal. And I was, man, her performance keeps you enthralled in that entire dang movie, Joe. She is phenomenal in Sleep.
Yeah.
So I got a quick question. I don't know if either one of you guys have seen the movie. Have y'all, either one of you guys seen Decision to Leave, like last year's?
No.
The
No.
only reason why I asked that because there was another similar situation when I watched that, like, and I saw this girl's performance. Like, she was amazing. I don't remember if she actually got the nomination or not, but she was well deserving of it. And I think that what happens a lot of times with the foreign films, if they don't get picked up with the right distribution, they don't get pushed like they should, and stuff
Yeah.
gets kind of like missed. And I think that hopefully this isn't the situation for Sleep, but it has happened in the past. And I was just curious to pick y'all's brain about that
Sleep is
because I felt
currently
that
the
same way
number
about it.
one. Sleep is currently the number one movie in Korea. It had one of the biggest opening weekends for it. So this is a film that has a lot of eyes on it because of the money that it's making. So, and it played in Cannes along with playing at TIFF, along with being released.
And it's
So
also going to
it's a
play at
little different.
Fantastic Fest.
Fantastic Fest, yeah. So I think it's gonna. I'm
Wait,
almost 100% sure. Yeah, I'm almost 100% sure. If it does not have U.S. distribution, it's definitely gonna get it.
Yeah.
Because this film is, it hit. It's a thrilling / type of hard mystery drama. It has too many elements that it can be enjoyed by too many different audiences that I think they're gonna lock this movie in.
PETA may not
Like
like
Sleep is that good. Who?
PETA.
Oh.
so I gotta
Yes, Peter's gonna hate this movie. Oh, they're gonna hate this.
I got to talk about a certain element in the room because we talked about like possibilities of nominations and Oscar nominations. There's one movie that's really it's gonna be really hard to see what kind of happens with it. But I did look and see that right now, currently, is sitting at a December 8th targeted release. It's coming out by Searchlight Pictures, which is technically Disney. They could push it again, but I'm talking about, and Lucas already knows what I'm talking about. Magazine Dreams. Do you think that Jonathan Majors, if they keep the December 8th date, that he could? I don't, you know what? I don't even know if it's December, if they can still consider it for Oscar
Yeah,
contention.
yes, because it played in festivals and stuff. But amazingly, I've seen 5 performances better. Like
Really?
Magazine Dreams released early this year, but I've easily, when I say easily, and I don't mean like close, I've easily seen 5 performances better than Magazine Dreams this year. Because I don't have to like Oppenheimer, but it's a lock for Best Actor. Let's be
Wait,
realistic
for
here.
Chilean?
Yes, it's a lock. It
Really?
is not. It is not even something to have a discussion about. He's gonna get nominated for Best Actor. Paul's gonna get nominated for Best Actor. Coleman is gonna get nominated for Best Actor. To me, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers is gonna get nominated for Best Actor. Like I can easily name 5 performances better than Magazine Dreams. And Magazine Dreams is a movie. It's not that good. The
Yeah,
movie is flawed.
yeah,
But
but
and also, another movie you didn't like, sir.
what?
Fair Play most likely will walk away with a Best Actor performance nomination.
For Alden?
Yes.
So okay, so look, I even said this in my review. Like their performances were really good, but I don't know.
And
We'll
and
see.
then Jamie Foxx in A Burial. Like it's his
Yeah, that was
performance
one
in
I didn't
Magazine.
mention. I wanted to talk about that one. I actually
His
enjoyed it.
performance in Magazine Dreams isn't even. I don't think it's even considered on the list of best performances. Anthony Hopkins in One Life, which was another film played at this festival, would get nominated before that. His performance in One Life is devastating. And then there's still films that have not been screened yet that people are looking at. Oh, Nicolas Cage, A Dream Scenario is better. Like it's Paul Dano in Dumb Money. Like these are performances that trump Magazine Dreams. I think Magazine Dreams was amazing at the beginning of the year, but now as we've gone past it, it's always the fear that when you release a film early and you get to see these other films come out, and you all are going to go see Ferrari, which currently has Adam Driver being damn near locked for Best Actor nomination too. And then there's the film that's not playing at another film festival that everybody's waiting to see. And that is Killers of the Flower Moon, that has people saying Leonardo is a lock for Best Actor.
So now I wish you hadn't done that, Lucas, because when you were talking about Dumb Money and you were talking about that's something else you just brought up. God, right before you.
Burial?
Yeah. So Burial and Dumb Money, I had so much fun with. Burial, it kind of it can be kind of hit or miss sometimes, but I fully actually really enjoyed it. But Dumb Money actually was one of my favorites this year. It's just not on my top 10, but I actually really love Dumb Money. Now, this movie, from an animation standpoint, Hayao Miyazaki's, we thought it was going to be his last movie. It's not going to be. The Boy and the Heron actually was one of my favorite stories that Hayao Miyazaki has ever done. I actually really enjoyed this. I mean, the animation is probably some of his best, which is crazy because there's been so many amazing animated films this year. I don't even know what that's going to look like. That race is going to be crazy. But
I don't even think it's a race. I think it's already locked.
What?
I was already locked. You
What
said
is?
a race?
Yeah.
Best animated feature. It's already locked in, man. It's no race.
What is?
It's no competition. What do you think it is?
You talking about Spider-Man?
Yes, it's a lot. It's no competition.
But they're gonna
It is
definitely
literally no competition.
They're gonna put a.
I don't care. I don't care what other
yeah, there hasn't been
film.
any other film animated
How about
wise
say?
that can
I mean,
It doesn't matter.
Ninja Turtles would be in that same contention. To be honest with you,
They are. They're going to be, but there's not a film that is going to beat Spider-Verse. It is a lock. It is a sequel to a film that won. It's a sequel to a film that won Best Animated Picture at the Oscars, and it's better than the original.
It is.
Like, if I had to pick between them, Ninja Turtles is a better movie for me. But I know Spider-Verse is a lock for best animated feature.
What do you think about what Mike's saying? This being up for Best Picture.
He's not seen enough movies. That's why. It's not even in a ballpark. Actually, right now of films.
Did Super Mario Brothers come out this year?
It did.
It did come out this year.
It did. And
it is animation.
Yeah,
and it is animation.
That's the only other film animation-wise that I can think would, just because of how much it produced, like money-wise and all that, like box office.
Yeah, now that's going to be the key. Is if does box office necessarily lead, because it did not have a good critic reaction.
Yeah.
So but you don't need a good critic reaction to get Oscar nominations. So you never know. But then there's so many other films coming out this year. Again, y'all are going to see Ferrari. Killers of the Flower Moon played at one film festival. It's not playing at anything else. I want to say Maestro is also playing at New York Film Festival.
Yeah.
And that's another big film that's coming out this year. Yeah. And then you got the movie with it's another Netflix movie with Julia Roberts and Mahershala Ali that is getting a lot of attention because people have not seen it yet. And people are saying this film could end up getting both of them nominated for Best Actor and Best Actress.
Oh.
Yeah. And
so it's too many films. The animated films won't. It's impossible. I can name 10 films at TIFF that were better than Spider-Verse. So no, you're not gonna get into that. Origins is gonna struggle to try to get in the Best Picture race, and that's a film that's gonna be divisive. And the Academy loves those type of movies.
Well, like Origins is definitely gonna be very divisive. And I think part of that, I saw a lot of animated films really early. Like Suzume was one of my favorites early on. It's kind of the same situation like Magazine Dreams. Like I was like, man, this is one of the best. And then I've just had so many other animated films come right after it. So, but yeah, it's cool. All good.
Again, it's gonna really be important that TIFF is normally the beginning for North America. Like Cannes is the beginning internationally, and Venice are the beginning international for the awards rollout. TIFF is the biggest in North America. Like if you blow up at TIFF, you're 9 times out of 10 going to blow up into an Oscar nomination. And from there, that's when we get the crux of what happens with the rest of these films that's going to be coming out, whether it be the Ferraris, whether it be The Creator, which has screened at no festival. And people are wondering, is this District 9 or is it going to be something different or bigger? I mean, Jason David can't act, but maybe the film will be better than his performance will obviously be in this film. But like, and then you have Iron Claw, which is going to be A24's, I think, big awards push. And that hasn't screened this year yet. And you know how it is. If A24, the amount of films they've put out that are getting awards attention, if they're holding on to something, thinking this could be the big one, it may be the biggest film they have. Meaning in a sense of a film that catches on with critics. And this is starring Zac Efron playing part of the Van Aaron family in wrestling, which all of them are dead. Yeah, all of them are dead but one. And that story is haunting, and they're holding on to that. But they are saying that is going to be one of their big award push films. Like that's what we're getting to at this point now. But TIFF is just the start of it. TIFF tips the iceberg, because if you blow up at TIFF like American Fiction did, like you know that moving forward, you're going to get a lot of attention on you.
Yeah.
And The Zone of Interest. I'm sorry, that's another film that played at TIFF this year that it's going to be a hard watch for certain people because it's about the Holocaust. And I don't want to say this in a bad way, but the Academy loves Holocaust movies.
Oh my gosh.
They love Holocaust movies. Okay. And it's got amazing, it's gotten really good reviews. So you get really good reviews and being divisive and a movie about the Holocaust, boy, it's gonna get attention.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah,
But we'll
you guys,
see. We'll see.
yeah, this is exciting. Hopefully, it's got you guys enticed about some of the movies that you've never heard of before. That you're like, oh man, I can't wait for this to come out. So make sure you go and monitor some of these to see when they're going to be released. Some of them are going to be released really soon. Some of them are going to be a little bit later. Some of them still haven't been picked up by studios.
Yeah.
But you're going to see a lot of stuff in the news in the next few weeks to months. But
check out Dix the musical. Sam doesn't like it.
I
Check it
didn't.
out.
I didn't. I never
It's
said
all-
that.
That's
it's
hard
also
to
another
in-
A24 movie.
It is. Dix the musical is an A24.
It is.
Dude, so if just in the past little bit, like in the past couple of months, you have Dix the musical. You had wasn't Talk to Me also?
Yes, that's A24 too. Mm-hmm.
Dude,
And they had multiple films at TIFF.
Yeah.
Multiple that they had already had the rights to, and then they picked up the rights to Sing also.
Okay, so what was a better horror movie, Talk to Me or Sleep?
I haven't seen Talk to Me, so I'll say Sleep.
Talk to Me is the better horror movie. Sleep is the overall better movie. Sleep is a better movie. Like Sleep does a great job of really giving
It
you
might
the
kick
horror
me up
elements
before I see
without the need to show you everything. That's what Sleep does a great job of. It doesn't feel the need to show you everything. It's elements of Sleep that would have made Talk to Me better. But Talk to Me is great also.
Okay, fair enough. So what is our
All of them are
overall-
better than The Finest Kind. All of them. Everything is better than The Finest Kind.
Oh my god.
Movie's horrible on so many levels.
It's not, y'all, but I'm gonna leave
It
that
is
alone.
horrible. It is horrible.
It's not that
It
bad.
had 3 different plot points in one movie. 3.
It's not that
It
bad.
gave you 3 plots in one movie, and none of them were completed. But it gave you a happy ending because it's good to abandon everything you love for a heroin addict. I'm assuming that's the best way to put it. The movie's horrible.
Hey, look,
It's so bad.
talk about
Look.
heroin addict. Look,
Hold up.
Robert Domingo is in Euphoria. If you guys didn't know, he's got a very strong character.
Look. I'll just say this, and then we can go. Finest Kind was the only screening that I went to at TIFF where no one cheered when they was leaving it. Everybody was like, well, and Reptile. Reptile and Finest Kind were the only movies. No, people cheered at Reptile. My bad. They cheered at Reptile, but they left Finest Kind, and it was with an audience, and they said, "Oh, what the hell was that?" I said, "Yeah."
Anywho, what is our overall thoughts of TIFF 2023 individually? Jorge, I'll let you go first.
Honest opinion: if you're gonna do TIFF, you gotta do it live. The virtual option of it, I was very disappointed in it. You know, and all I can compare it to just last year to this year, and it was a huge letdown because I had bandwidth to do so many more movies, but so few studios and so few people were actually giving out screeners. So I would think for me, if you're gonna do it live. I've done it live, and it's definitely a festival to go do an experience. But yeah, that's my thought on it. And go see Sleep.
All right, Lucas.
The best way to put it is the strike didn't impact the festival as much as I thought it would. Like, the studios still brought their A game, and even if the films weren't good, they still brought enough of them to this festival for critics to enjoy and see, so they can get some push on them, and for the audience. And I love the point that TIFF isn't exclusive to critics. It is again the biggest film festival in North America, so it's the biggest form of a festival in North America you're gonna get. And that the point that they don't make it exclusive, and that an ordinary person can walk up and get a ticket to TIFF is amazing to me. And for TIFF 2023, it was a quieter festival, so it led for more people to be able to see some of these films, which is always a good thing. as Jorge said, I think that's going to be the next wave, is that all of these festivals are going to, besides Sundance, because no one's going to Utah, is going to push you to do it in person.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, for me, like Lucas said, I didn't know what we were going to kind of get. I was wondering if like the directors were going to pull out. I was wondering if some of the studios were going to kind of limit outside of the indie like studios. But there was some really good films. Some films did let us down, but I think it's a really good experience to be able to be there in person. And like Lucas said, like being able to enter, like it was one of the midnight movies I saw. I think it was Boy Kills World. I was leaving out of there, and somebody kind of came off the street and was like, "Hey, what do you think about that film? Like, what is this?" And they kind of just were asking me, picking my brain about it. I'm like, "Oh man, I'm gonna go buy a ticket to see this tomorrow." So stuff like that, the interaction of film in and of itself is they're trying to promote that. They're not just promoting the film. They're not just promoting it for the studio. They're promoting film, and I think that there's a love there for the experience of the festival that I think everybody can kind of generally see. I do feel like some of the red carpet stuff was really rough. Being locked in, I understand it, but when you're kind of going with a team of two or a team of three, it kind of makes it near impossible, and sometimes it's just ineffective. I would recommend that they kind of broaden their online library to some capacity. So in the event, at the very least, in my personal opinion, if anybody is doing red carpet and they get red carpet, I think that they should be inclined to possibly get like a screening link after the fact to be able to make sure that they can at least get the review coverage if they can't make the screening. Because a lot of times for me, I would go and do the red carpet, but I couldn't go to the movie because I had to go to another red carpet. So to be able to kind of diffuse that, I think that'd be something that'd be really cool. But other than that, that's the semantics of it. I think that it was we had still a good, successful festival. I would have liked to see more films. Would have liked to have done more coverage, but we got what we got done. So I'm happy.
Actually, a question for you guys, just to end on a bombshell here. How do you think TIFF is going to be next year now that Bell is no longer going to be the main sponsor?
Well, yeah, because Bell, this is their last year sponsoring.
Yeah, this is their last year. So Bell, I think, has been a sponsor of theirs, like the main sponsor for like 20
years?
some years, like 26 years or something. Do you think that's going to affect it at all? Or do you think they're going to, you don't think so?
No, because being in Toronto for so long, what I realize is Bell is a communications company, I want to say, in Toronto.
Yeah.
It's not the biggest, I don't believe. I think Rogers is the biggest. So I think what's going to happen is another company is going to come in like a Rogers, and they're going to take over. Like when you go downtown Toronto, Rogers, which is their cable communications company, has about 8 buildings.
Yeah.
And completely control a huge amount of real estate. So I think it's just going to be another sponsor that comes up. TIFF is so big of a festival. I think even sponsors here in America would love to be able to attach their name to that festival. Because if you can attach your name to TIFF, I think with Bell, it just opened the window for someone else to step in. It's just going to be who's going to be that person that steps in. Is it going to be a Canadian company, or is it going to be an American company like Verizon, T-Mobile, any of these huge communication companies here, Comcast? One of them are going to try to step up and say, how much will it cost us to be your lead sponsor? Because if we get that as your lead sponsor, we can promote the heck out of that. And it may change the way you see the festival.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I mean, the truth of the matter is, I mean, outside of the TIFF Bell box and everything, kind of how they have it structured there, I mean, Visa is still going to be supporting like TIFF no matter what. And
Visa Bulgari that everyone claps at every year. And
I was gonna say, did they still have Zendaya at?
Yes, everybody was cheering.
Jorge they had it with a different beat. I'm gonna need my white people to learn how to clap on beat. Yeah, I know, I understand it. Y'all, for some odd reason, y'all hit a beat on a 1 and a 3, but I need y'all to learn how to kick. It takes nothing to clap in rhythm, and they got confused every time they did it. They could not keep up with everyone clapping. But yes, they clap really loud. Now they scream at random things that I did not know that they would be screaming at this point. They now stand up during the TIFF volunteer section and salute them.
They salute.
Like
I remember they were doing that last year
for film.
Like it is. Yeah, if you go to TIFF in any way, shape, form, or fashion, either as a critic or if you just happen to say, hey, I want to just experience TIFF as an audience member, because you can just buy a ticket to it, you have to experience Midnight Madness at least once in your life.
Yes.
That crowd is something unique that does not happen in theaters anymore. Like, that is something that the point that you have a packed theater at midnight, every midnight for films, should tell you something. And that crowd is amazing. But again, it's something that I wish more people could attend.
I almost liken that crowd in a sense. It's like if you go to like some of these old mom and pop theaters where they show like Rocky Horror Show, and you just have the people who like throw the bread on the screen and all that, like just they know what's happening and everyone is doing it. Like it's you don't see that at all. So I do agree.
Yeah,
East Street Cinemas, Rocky Horror Picture Show, or Halloween screenings, or Showgirls that miraculously we ended up talking about at one point in time this week. They even show screenings of Showgirls there. The same thing. Like, it's just about the fun of going back to movies. That's what Midnight Madness is. It's the fun of going to movies again.
Yeah, and I think it was last year we looked at Weird Al. That was hilarious. Even us being in the balcony with that, people were just having a blast. And I think that having it being packed in a theater like that gives it that old school feel to it, which I do appreciate. It's crowded. It hurts your knees, but I do appreciate
Weird Al, the blackening. To hear that many people laugh.
Even Pearl had a huge showing there.
Yep. And will Maxine play there next year?
Oh, I better. It's better.
But again, just enjoy it. I hope again more people get to check out TIFF. You're watching us talk about it. Again, regular people can buy tickets to TIFF, and they're not overly expensive. So just understand that these tickets are not overly expensive. They're about $25 Canadian, $32 Canadian, which in American money is not $32 or $25. So it may make it more affordable. Maybe if you feel like grabbing a group of friends and driving up to TIFF, or catching a quick flight or something, staying there for a few days and enjoying that type of festival. That environment is great. And it's something we don't have in North America. So it's even better for people to see that you get to see these movies extremely early before anybody else. Is something that like is a privilege that I hope more people take advantage of, especially up and coming content creators. If this is what you want to do, if reviewing film is what you want to do, invest in yourself. Get a TIFF membership. It's like $250 a year. I know that's a lot of money. Do it 1 year. You get access before anybody else to buy tickets to every premiere film. Load up your content that way, where you can drop these reviews early and you can get this attention early that is mandatory if you're going to be a content creator. It's all part of the hustle. As we learned through in this festival, if you don't have the hustle, it's kind of hard to teach people to hustle.
Yep.
So hopefully you get the hustle in you to make yourself better.
Yep. On that note, thank you guys so much for watching us. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell button. We're going to have a lot of reviews that are going to be dropping, if they haven't already now, in the next few days until the weekend. We are going to be uploading some red carpet and interviews as well. So stay tuned for all that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks, guys, for being here. We out.
Falling out the top of